on
Cool.
now.
You're on your
All
own.
right.
What's up,
I'm
everybody?
trusting you.
Welcome to the Flaming Meeple YouTube channel. I am joined by my friend Jonathan Lukes from his new YouTube channel, Casting Rolls,
Casting
where
rolls.
not to be confused with with any casting couches or anything else of that nature.
Or critical
This is
role.
this is family programming, by God. Um, un, unless I'm being competitive in games. Um, but John is a good friend of mine that is very I can't talk knowledgeable when it comes to RPGs. Excuse me, COVID cough. So since I haven't played any RPGs in let's see, when did FCB close down? Like 2016.
It might have been 2016. Yeah, I had
2016.
started grad school at about 2014,
So yeah,
and
it's
it closed down when I was in grad school.
yeah.
I think because I stopped going and buying all the board games, they just had to shut
Oh,
down.
and
They had
I
no income
stopped going
anymore.
and buying all the Magic cards and old comics. So no, I was still going there and doing that. I'm lying. I'm a mark. But yeah, so it's the last time I played D&D was at FCB in like 2014, 2013, whenever they were doing Adventure League stuff. Um, and I went from, I think it was maybe like 3 or 4 months. Before that, the last time I played D&D was 3.5 back in, I don't know, 2006, 2007, around there. Um, so, I've got a good 6 year gap, 5 or 6 year gap in playing RPGs. Um, so, you'll maybe need a little bit of a refresher on what to do, where to start. I know everybody knows what Dungeons and Dragons is. For well, almost anybody that plays any tabletop games is fairly familiar with the name Dungeons and Dragons, at least, right? You would think.
Yeah, it's definitely grown in popularity, especially with fifth edition. I would say,
Yeah,
Critical
well,
Role definitely
yeah,
is a
Critical
renaissance,
Role.
uh, and a lot of
Another
all
big
these other
one that
podcasts, video casts. Like it's becoming
yeah,
so big and popular. Being a nerd is in now.
it's. I know I'm like, you know 15 years too late on that one.
Yeah, but no, I
Jeez.
mean, I think everyone has similar experiences to you, where there's even if you did play before, there's always a gap,
Yeah.
and some life event happened, or something happens just where you don't have the opportunity to play like you did before. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, I started out back in, I think, going into seventh grade, uh, looking on my friend's game shelf, and he had two older brothers, actually three
Mm-hmm.
older brothers, and uh, so apparently, they had this advanced Dungeons and Dragons introduction to, and it's any other kind of like basic game essentially where you got pre-made characters and so I mean, gosh, we played all summer long, spring and into summer, and
Nice.
ended up moving away. And
Yeah.
so moving down to Georgia, 3.0 was out by that point. So when I was looking
Mm-hmm.
for something, it's like I saw these handbooks. And so, I kind of tried to get some friends to play it, but, it was all, I wasn't the DM in that group that I was with before.
Okay.
So it definitely made it more difficult to try to learn, especially all these new rules. I was like, where's that go? I mean, I don't understand any of this.
Yeah, and so Thaco is well before I started. I ever played my first game of D&D, so I only know it from the internet memes
Yeah.
in the various D&D groups and pages. I have never experienced Thaco. Um, as late in the day as I would have time to be playing, or late in the week as I would have time to be playing, my brain is fried, and I don't even want to think about doing that kind of math.
Yeah, and I mean, I think what you touched on before we even started this recording is that one of the things that I think we hope to do is to help viewers understand that you have busy lives and you don't
Yeah.
necessarily need to be devoting an entire weekend to trying to figure out a character or to feel that burden of having to put so much energy into that, and instead you can look to other resources of like what we're going to provide and hopefully help guide you to streamline your process so that you spend less time creating the character and more time playing your character.
Right. And
So
I can assure everybody that John and I are two totally different play styles. I am the I just want to make a character, roll these numbers, and start playing. Backstory, what's that? I'll fill it in with the hints and I'll roll off the table in the PHP. I'm good. Jonathan is he puts he definitely puts thought in. We were talking, what was it, 2 weeks ago now, for a couple hours, and he really was making me think about just some BS druid that I came up with just off a
I'm
whim.
sorry.
Yeah, he was really making me think hard on it just because I had some screwy ideas of what would be fun and just build something. It's like, well, what what about the backstory? Why is this character like this? And for some people,
Yeah.
for not some people, for a lot of people, that is definitely something that they want to have a good grasp on. Is why is my character like this? And if I had like let's say a week, 2 weeks to come up with a character and to put thought into a character that I know I have the intention of playing as throughout a campaign from level 1 to 20 for a full years long campaign, then I would definitely be willing to put that kind of thought and attention to detail into creating that character. Um, but since I have yet to be able to get into a game, it's just roll the numbers, give them some screwy name, and have fun with it.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely different players out there,
Yeah,
and I think it's really important to understand, especially if you've gone through this multiple times, of what the group dynamic is going to be like and what's expected. Um, just because, I mean, I said in my experience, I played Advanced D&D, I played 3.0, I played, the adventure board game. We even played together that,
yeah, we
and it's those are all characters, and they're all acceptable characters for the game that you're trying to play. And
yeah,
so it's getting the understanding of, if you're playing in a group that wants to get a little bit more into the lore of the character, um, and the feelings of the character, having just a little guy from a board game isn't gonna really cut it. I mean, you don't
right,
understand your character's motive or what their drives are or what their all those different traits that they talk about features. Um, so it's uh, but if you're just, hey, I want to do a dungeon crawl, I don't care about how we got to the dungeon. I don't
mm-hmm.
care about the relationships with my group members. I want to do this like a World of Warcraft game, and we're raiding a dungeon because you got to have those nights.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and
and
I'm
so
sure some of it, to a degree, comes down to the type of style your GM uses as well. Because I'm sure
yeah, so
there are GMs and DMs that are more role play heavy and want to flesh out that story and those details over the course of the campaign and focus on what makes your character that person versus the some types of DMs that probably just are like, yeah, cool, you're the way you are, and we'll touch on that a little bit here and there.
yeah, sometimes you can try to help inject your
Yeah.
style into the group, and maybe the group help picks it up. Uh,
Okay.
and so it's there's definitely responsibility on the player and the GM and the rest of the group of um, hey, this is important to me because I don't have that much time to play in three different groups. One to play with my friends who play a certain way, but then another way to play with another group that I may not be friends with, but to play the style that I like to play. People don't
Mm-hmm.
always have that luxury. And
Right.
so sometimes it's being able to make compromises or, using, what I like to call module features from different RPGs and
Mm-hmm.
port them into your RPG. So even if it makes it slightly homebrew, hopefully you can get something where you enjoy playing your character and you enjoy the story that the group is telling, and no one's feeling upset by that.
Right.
So
And so when you say other RPGs, I mean I know everybody knows D&D. The second most popular one I would think is Pathfinder. Obviously,
now
I know about
2.0.
Star Wars. Yeah, now Pathfinder 2.0. Obviously, I know about Star Wars. I don't know about the Star Wars RPG other than it exists, and that there is Force and Destiny. There's three different versions of it. There's Force and Destinies where it's the Jedi focus. There's one that is where you play as smugglers and bounty hunters, and then
Edge of
there's
the Empire.
another one, Edge of the Empire. Thank you. And then there is the other one where you are playing as rebels,
Age of
or I
Rebellion.
guess now as resistance. Or no,
Hmm.
it would be rebels because it takes place in that time frame of Battle of Yavin and the
The
Empire
original
still being
trilogy.
around. Yeah,
Hmm. And yeah, they definitely had a unique format where instead of having a book for the players and a book for the DM and a book of monsters like the traditional D&D setup, as they said,
yeah. It's all
you know
under
what,
one
let's
book, isn't it?
yeah, let's release it almost like certain classes in one book,
Yeah.
and then certain classes in another book, and another set of classes in a third book, and that way
That's
it
Fantasy
was
Flight.
yeah, and that way you can understand the different styles of stories that you can tell.
Yeah.
That way it's all separate, so it doesn't get confused. But they did come out with another uh, basic game, just like they did for the other three, which was supposed to be like the Force Awakens
That's
timeline.
right. I have seen
So
that. I've only ever seen the starter box for it. I don't know if they ever released anything else for it. Did they?
they never will, I don't think.
Of course not.
But it does give a good understanding that you can take this across any of the Star Wars timeline. A stormtrooper is a
That's
stormtrooper.
true.
I mean,
Yeah.
you can take them and you can use them as the
Rebel's just
first
a
order.
resistance fighter. Yeah.
Hmm. I'm sure they have droids in there, so if you want to take it all the way back to
Oh,
the
of course.
prequels,
Yeah.
or even go as far back as Knights of the Old Republic, which I thought was a fantastic
I
Xbox
think
game.
I absolutely love that. And there's rumors that it's going to be adapted in a way as a series on Disney Plus. They're going to
Oh,
start
that'd be
introducing
perfect.
more of those characters into canon, which I think is fantastic, and I would love to see Keanu Reeves as Riven. But anyway, that's a different topic, a different video for a different day on a different channel.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, there's definitely been a huge renaissance of RPGs. I mean,
yeah,
once D&D went to fourth edition and tried to mimic what World of Warcraft was doing, where you have to have a set team and each person has a specific role that they play, like a tank or DPS or healer.
mm-hmm.
And 3.5 came out, or actually was continuing, I should say, with Pathfinder. Um, all these other members. I mean, I'm looking at some of the names that are on my 3.0 books, and they're all over the place. So there's 13th Age, which is another type of D20 similar style RPG, and then
Mm-hmm.
Numenera, which is by another person who spun off, who did the the planes, the planes of chaos, and what's the rest of it? Planescape, I think it was called maybe. I can't
Yeah,
remember the name of that.
Planescape.
Not sure if it's Planescape.
I want to say
Anyways,
Pillars. I want to say Pillars of Eternity, but I might just be thinking that that's a video game that's been on my brain for a few months. Um,
well, he did something with the planes, and then he also did uh,
I want to say it is Planescape
another big one is Talus.
Because Planescape Torment is I don't know if it's a full successor to the RPG, but I know Planescape Torment is based off of the RPG Planescape.
So yeah, I mean, once they started doing this, other groups came out with other RPGs, and it's got everything from going back to old school style again, but using some of the new school systems.
Mm-hmm.
So like Dungeon Crawl Classics, where the whole theme of it is you're going into a dungeon and you're looting treasure and you're killing monsters. Like you're not trying to negotiate. You're not getting involved in all that fuss. Like you just want to get in, and you got all these random tables that you're rolling on, and you're hoping to survive,
You just
and
just
chaos
go in
ensues.
Diablo mode.
Yeah, exactly. And then you got others like Hillfolk, which uses the drama system, which
Mm-hmm.
is all about the group dynamic, and it's almost a system of, yeah, I mean they call it the drama system because yeah, you have some of these tokens and resources that you're trying to buy, essentially, like favors. You're trying to get favors. So if you try to set up a scene with another character in the group and you're trying to get something from them, if they deny that from you, then you get a
Mm-hmm.
resource from them, or you get a resource from the pool. And now you can use that resource to force people to do what you want them to do. And you got these conflicts of things that pull you in different directions, and you have this inner drive, this inner goal that's not tangibly achieved. So it's like
So
you can have someone who thinks that, oh well, I want to be the leader of the tribe. It's like,
yeah.
okay, but that's tangible. What do you really want? And it's like, I want to feel appreciated. I want to feel in control again. Like that's something that's intangible, that's inside. And it
Okay.
doesn't matter if you're chief or not. Like you're always, even becoming chief, you might still feel that where it's like, I don't want my tribe. I want other tribes. Like something that's still attacking that personal trait of yours. And that's what
Now,
it's all about.
how similar is that system to Call of Cthulhu? Because I know the Call of Cthulhu system is fairly unique.
Yeah, from my understanding, I'm not sure which edition I played. I played a game under Casey Sears,
Yeah.
and we had a couple other people, and it ended up being a thing where everyone died. Essentially, I was thrown in jail,
The,
which was supposedly the safest place to be in Call of
oh, in Call
Cthulhu.
of Cthulhu. Yeah. So that would be first. I want to say, how long ago was that? Like
That was FCB
because
2.0,
seventh edition just came out, so that might have been like shoot, that may have been like fourth or fifth edition.
maybe. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely a different system of,
But yeah,
you have these different skills, and it's a D100 system, and you're
yeah.
trying to roll. I think it's either under your score or over your score, and that's how you improve your skills if you actually succeed. But yeah, it's
So it's
definitely a whole different style of trying to
yeah,
solve a mystery and trying
yeah,
to
because
not learn too
there's no
much.
actual combat to it. From what I
Uh,
at least from the podcast from what the podcasts
mhm,
where they touch on it some. Like
mhm,
I'm listening to an episode of Dungeons and Daddies right now, where this episode's it's a prequel episode,
mhm,
and it's set in Call of Cthulhu
mhm,
system,
mhm,
and they haven't I haven't gotten to any combat in it yet, but they've had some encounters, and they have to roll on that percentile dice,
mhm,
and you do have to roll instead of wanting to get the high roll like you normally would in a D20 system.
mhm,
You have to roll low. You have to roll under your stat.
mhm.
I
Yeah,
do
yeah,
know that
that's actually
much, and
similar
that's
to
about
Advanced
the
Dungeons and
extent of my
Dragons.
RPG knowledge.
Yeah, that's the way how it was in Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. So, fun fact: the reason why the ability scores generally don't go above 20 is
Yeah.
because you were supposed to roll your die for that attribute, and you were supposed to be under your score to succeed. So, if you had a low score of like 10 or 8, then the harder it was to actually succeed on a dwarven charisma check,
So
right?
that's what THAC0 is.
That's not what THAC0 is.
That's not what
That's
THAC0 is. Because I
no,
keep
that's not what
seeing I
THAC0 is. That's
see
just how they
I
did
only
skills
know
because they didn't
THAC0
have
by
skills
name.
then.
I don't actually know what it is.
So I can't get into too much here because that'll take forever. There's
Like
definitely better videos out there.
that would be its own series. Yeah.
But what it stands for is to hit armor class 0. And so
Okay.
back before they standardized everything in the D20 system of 3.0, the generally if you had a higher attribute, it was better. But if you had a lower armor class, it was better. So the 0 armor class was equivalent to 20.
Okay.
And so it's what do I need to roll to hit someone that was like an armor class 20?
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a modifier of like let's say +5 in 5th edition, then you would have to roll 15 in order to get to hit 20. It's a similar thing. So
Okay.
you would have to have a 15 to hit armor class 0
Okay.
because it
Now
worked
was
from 10 and going down.
now was there still critical hits and critical failures for that too?
Oh, I actually don't know. I can't remember. I mean, again, the copy that I have is just the introduction to, so they may
Yeah.
even skip over some of the rules and they may simplify it even further.
Okay.
But I know some people still play second edition and advanced. Like they think that was when RPG peaked.
Yeah. In I mean, I know there's guys in some of the RPG groups on Facebook that I'm in, and I kind of just lurk in. Um, like Dads and Dragons. I know there's guys in that still play AD&D and second edition. They won't even touch fourth or fifth.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of people didn't like fourth. I think it almost destroyed
They
the brand.
are full on as they call themselves purists.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. It was an
So
interesting time.
yeah, that's what I've heard. So other systems that are not exactly D20. I've seen some stuff at Gigabytes that are, uh, if I remember correctly, Fate system.
Yep. Fate is one system. It uses fudge dice,
It
which is
uses what dice?
I
Fudge.
think they call
I
them
mean,
fudge dice. So
I'm not a big chocolate fan. I could do some fudge, but it's
yeah. So with those dice, it's like a d6, but a
yeah.
couple sides have a plus on it, a couple sides have a minus on it, and then depending on the type of, I think it's essentially an attribute that you have determines how many dice you roll. And so you might
Okay.
have pre-built-in modifiers, but this fudge dice says whether or not you do a little bit better or a little bit worse or just
Mm-hmm.
remain neutral. So it kind of fudges a little bit of what your ability is by bringing
Okay.
it up or down a little bit. I think that's where it comes from. But I haven't
Okay.
dealt too much in Fate. It's supposed to be, I think, one of the first real generic RPGs,
Mm-hmm.
meaning that it could be ported into any kind of style of play in terms of theme. So if you want to play a horror type game or a
Kind of
space
like
opera
GURPS.
game or a fantasy. Yeah, GURPS. Yeah.
Okay. And speaking of so, because I again a lot of these I just know by name from seeing them in stores and online. Um,
I want to say
GURPS
Fate is even free online. So
really?
yeah,
I like free.
you might be able to find it somewhere on their website. At least the
Okay,
basic versions.
I'll have to do some reading into that.
If it's not free, I didn't get it for free.
So I know GURPS is very generalized that can be adapted to anything and everything you would want it to be.
I haven't looked too much into GURPS. That's not one of the ones that piqued my attention when I was looking at what RPGs did I want to collect and
Oh,
hopefully
okay.
play, but mostly collect.
Yeah, I
I'm a
mean
big
that's
fan of
basically
art. I'm a big fan of something that feels different, uh,
yeah.
because I think that's while everyone loves their system that they play, I think even just learning how other systems play can improve you as a role play gamer if
Yeah.
that is what you want to pursue. If you don't want to pursue it, don't waste your time on it. But
Yeah.
definitely reading all these different kinds of RPGs can improve you and improve your game uh, by just applying different concepts and different ways of thinking. Part of the thing that I like is, especially if you're playing with a group, that if you feel like your games are going a little stale, um,
Hmm.
try to incorporate something that could be used just for that session that you learned someplace else.
Hmm.
And, make sure the players understand it when they need to understand it, not have it be too complicated, but just some added little feature for this one session that kind of makes them actually, pay attention again instead of just
It just
going
brings
with the
that
flow.
spark back.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And so I remember doing that with uh, one of my Ravenloft sessions that I did for a friend who was having a birthday. He's like, I want the guys to come back together again and let's play an RPG. We'll do a one shot.
Hmm.
So we did the 5e Ravenloft. There's something online that you can actually run it as a one shot where it's I think it's called like Strahd Dies Tonight. And so I was
I
able
think
to
you briefly talked to me about that one before.
and so it's a way, I mean, they say that people love doing it around Halloween because you get into the
Yeah.
spirit of everything.
Yeah.
Ha ha ha. But one of the things that I took from Monty Cook and one of his adaptations of the Cipher system, there's like an optional variant feature of building tension by having setbacks pop up. And just by using that idea, I applied a concept that the D20 system has is if you roll a one, you fail.
Hmm.
Even though some say that's not real. There's no critical fail in 5e. Uh,
Hmm.
but some people
I
believe
think that's
if it's a
just
one, it's a failure.
I think it comes down to your DM discretion because
Exactly. Yeah.
at the end of the day, in the rulebook, it says the DM has final say on rulings at the table.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was doing something where whenever they rolled a one, or whoever rolled it first,
Hmm.
now I had this other die, this other d20, a spin down counter, and I moved it to two. And so now when the next person rolled a one or two, it failed
Oh.
automatically. And so what happened is every time that it happened, every time someone rolled a one, that spin counter would go up. So now it's for a game that's horror based, it builds tension
That
of,
really adds a
oh my
level
goodness, like
of
I'm
tension,
having
and
doubt.
that that makes it a little more exciting.
Hmm. And so by adding
That would
something
be
like that,
fun.
yeah, so adding something like that to your game session that you just learned from somewhere else can definitely
Yeah.
add some of that spark again, rather than just showing up and doing your most optimal attack move, or trying to work with someone else to maybe overcome it from a slightly different angle, but you're still generally doing your optimized attacks and movements.
That would be fun. Like it would be frustrating as all get out, but
I
at
think it
the end
got
of
up
it,
to I think it got up to three. I don't think it got up to four, but still, people were
okay.
then now
But
paying
still, I
attention to their
mean,
dice rolls
you
again.
get nervous every time you roll the dice at that point.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, it could definitely be fun to learn about different RPGs, and um, sometimes you fall in love with others and you never get to play them, but you get to play another
Yeah.
one. So for me, this one, this one, Numenera. This is an old art, the original art of the. It's technically a first edition, uh,
Hmm.
but they now kind of call the next one Numenera 2.0, which it's really called Discovery and Destiny. It's meant to update
That
the
was the
rules a
one that
little
was
bit.
on. That was the one that was on Kickstarter a few months back, right?
Well, I think they've finished everything on their Kickstarter, which takes like 2 years to do. So
Because I feel
they've
like there was a Numenera set that was on Kickstarter not that long ago,
times
or
past, man.
maybe it was something that was Numenera inspired.
Uh, they did do some stuff now where they converted their system to be played in fifth edition.
Okay.
And they also created something that was fifth edition to play Numenera with it, which is strange. So it's
Okay.
like one you can basically play in the
Huh.
Numenera world by
Yeah.
using fifth edition rules, and another one that was how to incorporate the weird of Numenera into your D&D games.
So what do you mean the weird of Numenera? Like, what is
So
Numenera like?
so Numenera is supposed to be a setting that takes place on Earth 1 billion years in the future. Now, no one can really comprehend what 1 billion years would look like, but it understands that there is some form of evolution, and that in the world they call the ninth world,
Uh huh.
the reason why they call that is because they believe there were 8 great civilizations and ages, or worlds essentially, before this one, and they all left something behind. And
Mm-hmm.
so you're a people that's almost post apocalyptic, but also still starting to build up. You're building around all these great things that happened, where there was nanotechnology, uh, biomutations, time travel, space travel. There was supposedly a time when humans were no longer the primary intelligent creature, like they left, but somehow came back because you're playing as a human. So you almost have this medieval mindset, essentially, of one of the taglines they have is any technology that's sufficiently advanced is
Mm-hmm.
indistinguishable from magic, and so it's kind of a science fantasy setting. So when I talk about weird, I mean part of the things that you'll find is, let's see if I can find any good pictures here. So let's see, I'm trying to find one that would be a good image for you guys to see. I mean, here's a thing called a disassembler, which is something that's what they would call like an automaton.
Okay.
So they don't call them robots, and they don't call them necessarily machines. They call them automatons, just so
Yeah.
you don't get the understanding that, oh, it's a robot because I understand what robots are. No, they
Yeah.
purposely give it a new kind of name so that you don't fall into the default of, oh, it's just a robot. Because who knows if this robot is, or this automaton is controlled by magic? Is it controlled by technology? Is it both? Is it actually a creature? I mean, there's just so many
Is
different
it
things that can
yeah? Is
happen.
it controlled by anything? Is it self-aware?
Yeah. And so all the animals that you see um, have definitely, quote unquote, evolved
Yeah.
into something completely, not completely different, but Um, you know, one of the things that they say is if you want to create something that's weird,
Mm-hmm.
you take something and then you add something to it that's different, and then you add something different to it again, like a third time. So
Okay.
you see this goldfish that's got a bubble around its head, which I'm guessing is
Mm-hmm.
water, and it's flying next to this guy. Like, why is that happening? How is that happening? But yeah, so you're basically a character that's in this world, and you're just trying to um, understand as much of the world as you need to survive,
Mm-hmm.
and then get to the point of how do you rebuild your communities again? Because a lot of these regions are so disassociated that you can travel from uh, from one section of the world to another, and it'll feel completely different. It's a whole nother different kind of social contract, I would say. I mean, I think it's great. It started out with just being the setting specific
Mm-hmm.
uh, game, but then they kind of expanded into the cipher system generic, which um, you can port it into science fantasy. You can do it in space opera. They're still releasing books now. Like one's about to be a not a children's fantasy, but definitely it's called "We're All Mad Here." Playing off of Alice in Wonderland's Mad Hatter and the
Okay. Yeah.
Cheshire Cat. You know,
Yeah.
so it's definitely one of my favorite systems because it gives a little more control to the players of how they want to play the game, and it starts forcing the DM or the GM to
Yeah.
react to their story that they want to tell. Because all these different game systems. They're all pushing adventures onto you in campaigns,
Hmm.
but really, you don't always feel satisfied about your character. Like their story wasn't told; it was just railroaded on some campaign. And so I feel like once people start learning how to create good characters, teaming up with their GM and the rest of their players to tell their character's story,
Hmm.
then you're going to have a blast every time.
Yeah, and as someone that's not come up with any kind of character that would have a backstory, I I would be if I had a GM or DM guiding me on that. I think I would be more interested and invested in creating that kind of backstory for a character, especially once I get back into doing some more serious RPG gaming. And I'm actually looking
It's
something up because you mentioned like a kitty RPG.
Are you talking about
The
No Thank You Evil?
Yeah, um, and there's one that I backed on Kickstarter because I'm a sucker for Kickstarters.
Oh, yeah, you are.
But it's on my phone
But yeah, it's one of
because
the things where
they had canceled the project and then sent the people that were original backers a link to get it for 50% off on Drive Through RPG. And so I
mm,
downloaded because it's marked as ages 3 and up. And I thought,
mm,
oh, that would be fun to try out with the girls. Maybe ease my way into trying to do some DMing.
hmm
Um, it's called Fairies of the Mistglade, the Cursed Garden.
mm.
Um, and I'll have the drive. I'll put the drive through RPG link in the description for anyone to go check it out. But it's relatively short. They use a tier system, so tier one is ages 3 to 5, and instead of having dice rolls and combat and focusing on all the abilities, then the characters have two core abilities with 3 skills each and 2 class abilities. And so puzzles are like connect the dots and you know coloring and that kind of stuff. Something that'll engage a 3-year-old and make them think it's fun instead of just sitting there and having to listen to somebody talk for hours.
Hmm.
And then, as it progresses through tier 2 and tier 3, it starts adding more and more of those traditional RPG elements and actually introducing the D20 system. But yeah, I saw that on Kickstarter. And like, oh, that'd be fun to try out with the girls because my girls are 3.5. So yeah,
It should be
they're
ready.
it says for tier one is ages 3 to 5. Reading through it, I'm like, yeah, it might be more like 3.5 to 4
Mm.
and up. So this is something else that'll help stimulate their minds too, outside of the usual activity books. And same with some of the board games I've gotten for them to play with me too.
All
Kind of
right.
just get some stuff to teach turn taking and colors and counting things like that.
All the necessary basics.
But this is the RPG bit, so the the um, the kitty RPGs are definitely something that I would like to try with the girls, especially since I have no experience DMing, so they can't judge me too hard on it. They'll think it's fun regardless. Yeah, I'll have the drive through RPG link for that in the description, and hopefully they kick it back off and restart their campaign, so I can get those in print also.
There you go.
Dude, this has been a blast. Um, I'm definitely looking forward to doing some more of this with you,
Yeah, I mean, I
and
definitely think it's going to be fun.
especially once we can get into maybe trying out a game, maybe do a one shot or something, even if it's just one on one, or if I can get Chris Francis to come over and we can do something with the three of us, um,
Definitely.
over Switch or Zoom or something like that,
Mhm.
and try out something either in Cipher System or D20. I mean, really, I just want to play, man. That's all it comes down to. I just want to roll a character and play,
Yeah.
and worry about fleshing out the details later. I
Yeah.
just want to scratch that itch.
There we go. Well, I hope we can do that.
I'm definitely looking forward to it, dude.
All right.
Um, Everybody, go check out Casting Roles. It is ROLLS. That is John's YouTube channel. Go check that out. I'll have I'll search for it on YouTube. I'll have him send me the link. I'll put the link in the description as well. He doesn't have anything up yet, but he will.
Yeah, gotta work on that.
Gotta get the ball rolling. He, again, just like a lot of folks, he's got a family, he's got a full time job, so you kind of have to work around that. Because this is something we just screw around. We just have fun.
Mhm.
I mean, the only sponsor I've got is my wallet, so
There you
Um,
go.
yeah, definitely check out John's channel. The link below. Get him some. I cannot talk now. Get him some subscribers. These words, man. These
Please.
words are difficult. More if it's more than like 5 or 6 letters, I'm screwed. Uh, get his subscriber count started up. Um, he'll have some content up pretty soon. Maybe talking about some different aspects of character creation,
Mhm.
or whatever he wants to discuss in a video. He does. It's not always going to be character creation, I'm sure, because he can only talk so much on that.
Mhm.
But yeah, definitely check it out. John, you got anything else, bud?
No, other than yeah, this was a blast.
Definitely looking forward to doing some more of this with you.
Excellent. All right,
This
man.
this
Well,
was this was a nice break from Star Wars and board games. As much as I love Polly the Porg here, I have Polly the Porg here. I have Petey the Porg in my truck. I have names for my porgs. Like I have 2 shelves right now that are dedicated to porgs, and I need like 4 more that are dedicated to my porgs. I have names for them. It's sad. If there's enough in the comments that want me to do a video pointing out the names for all my porg collection, I definitely will. I will gladly do that if enough people in the comments say they want to do it. Um, but yeah, you guys have a good night. Thanks for watching and putting up with our nonsense.
thank you, Danny. Take care, y'all.